Hello YouTube, it is your boy B3. Yeah, it's true, we're back with another book review. Today we are continuing our reviews of the Dinosaur Lake series with Dinosaur Lake 4, Dinosaur Wars by Catherine Mayer Griffith. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. I'm recording the reviews for 3 Dinosaur Lake videos in one day, so I'm pronouncing it the same in all of them. Even if someone corrected me on the Dinosaur Lake 3 one, I'm still going to have it wrong in this one. I'm sorry. But this book is also just known as Dinosaur Wars. And it picks up shortly after the last book left off, because the last book ended with, Anne being re-diagnosed with cancer and not knowing how they were going to treat it, because they kind of had to go into hiding from dinosaurs, which were invading the, human world. And so our book, takes place a little while after that. They've built this compound in a Crater Lake Park, or whatever the park is called. And then you got Henry and Anne and Justin and Laura. Is Laura Justin's wife or daughter? Laura's the wife, right? And then they have 2 kids. One that's Justin's stepdaughter and one that's Justin's biological son. And the book starts off in that compound. Some gargoyles attack, which are the dinosaurs from the second book. And there's going to be a lot of spoilers from here on out, so just keep that in mind. And Catherine Mayer Griffith just unapologetically slaughters Laura. Henry, our main character's daughter, Justin's wife, Anne's daughter, and then the mom of 2 beautiful kids, just slaughtered. And I'm not even sure why it was done. When it happened, I was like, holy shit, this is going to have some serious ramifications. And it almost didn't. Henry, Anne, and Justin take it really hard when it happens. Really hard. Justin, almost freezes to death because he refuses to leave her body unguarded in the shed with the fear that dinosaurs may come and take it and eat it. And it's like, holy shit, he's not taking this well. Henry's putting on this strong facade, and then Anne is just, bawling. But then they almost all seem to get over it immediately. It's very weird. Henry and Anne almost go to exactly the way they were before her death, almost. Except they're seeing their grandchildren more now. It doesn't seem to affect them as much long term as you would think the death of a child would. Which made me kind of feel like, I'm not gonna lie, it made me kind of feel like the author didn't know what to do with Laura, maybe thought she was in the way, so she killed her off. Which would have been fine, but at least, grieve, have the characters, deal with that death for more than maybe the first 2 chapters. Justin deals with it longer than anyone else, because he carries that weight with him, because he's kind of the top paleontologist in the world at this point, because he's been fighting dinosaurs far longer than anybody else, knows more about them than anybody else. He's the top paleontologist in the world. She dies, and he goes to this big paleontology conference in New York in an effort to find ways to stop the dinosaurs. And when he gets there, he's pretending his wife is still alive when asked about it, because he doesn't want to talk about it. And for one, he just kind of isn't used to her being dead. He hasn't even fully accepted it. So sometimes he'll just accidentally talk about her like she's still alive, but not correct himself because he doesn't want to think about it. And that was done incredibly well. And then we find out that even though he was saying that, everyone knew his wife was dead. They could just tell he didn't want to talk about it, so they didn't bring it up. And it was really well done. So Justin's grief for his wife was really well done, but her parents' grief for her seemed to just be in the moment almost, and it was like kind of sort of mentioned a little at some times, but didn't really have the biggest impact on them. And they almost don't even mention her in the book after this one. Like, for real, she's barely even mentioned in the book after this one. Like, she almost wasn't even there. And she was a registered, trained, educated nurse. She could have really helped out a lot. But she got killed off. Which was an effective death, but after the death itself, it didn't really feel like it had that much effect. Like, Justin wanting revenge on the dinosaurs and being willing to wipe out the thing he devoted his life to, you know, maybe that's there, but I don't know. It seemed like it didn't have enough impact, which is very odd. Maybe it did on Justin, but even then, Justin kind of gets over her pretty quickly. Justin's married again by the end of the book. Justin is married again by the end of the book. His wife, mother to his children, slaughtered by the very thing he devoted his life to. And he's married by the end of the book. And so, because, like, he goes to that paleontology conference and he meets up with an old friend that he went to school with. Like, college. And they were study buddies and stuff. And she, like, told him she had feelings for him in college. He couldn't reciprocate them, so they were just friends, and then they kind of lost touch. And then she comes back into his life at the conference, and the narrator is talking about how beautiful she is and all this stuff. And there's one point where Justin saves, like, her from a gargoyle, kind of, and it's talking about them being on top of each other while they're rolling away in a way that's very, like, sexually charged. And it's like, okay, his wife was just killed, and you're already setting him up to move on. It's way too soon. And it doesn't really show them specifically getting romantic in the book, but at the end of the book, it's like they're wrapping things up, and the author goes, oh, yeah, Justin got married, but then kind of throws in, but don't worry, he waited an appropriate amount of time. He waited an appropriate amount of time, don't worry. And it's like, did he? Because I wasn't given a number. And then Dinosaur Lake 5 picks up 3 years later. And aren't they married? So seems like he's married a bit early to me. I don't know. Hopefully I'm not just misremembering it, but Justin seems to move on incredibly, incredibly fucking quickly. In fact, romance as a whole in the Dinosaur Lake series seems to progress incredibly quickly. By the end of the first book, Justin wants to propose to Henry's daughter, Laura. God, I hope that's Henry's daughter's name and not Henry's granddaughter's name. If I'm fucking that up, I'm real sorry. But it's like, Jesus, really? It hasn't been that long. Couple months at most. It hasn't been long. And then he moves on really quick. And there's a guy named Steven who's like a writer and a musician, and he helps fight the dinosaurs. He's Justin's friend. He finds love in the compound with a doctor that comes to visit. They get engaged in a month. Like, the romance in this book moves way too quickly. Way too quickly. And then the same thing happens with Anne's cancer. Remember in book 2, I was like, they started this big cancer plot, and then they just kind of unceremoniously at the end of book 2, the narrator was like, oh, by the way, Anne's cancer went away. She's fine. And I was like, that could have carried into the next book. And then book 3 did it the way I wanted. It was like, oh, Anne's cancer is back, and we're going to end the book with her with cancer. And we're going to see where that goes in book 4. And then in book 4, it's like, Anne hasn't been to the doctor in months. No one at the compound has. And she has cancer, and she is incredibly sick. And, like, you as the reader, are super worried about Anne, because Anne is like such a wonderful human being, and she and Henry have such a great relationship, and you don't want either of them to lose each other, and you don't want to lose either of them as characters, because they're just both. It's like reading about your grandparents fighting dinosaurs almost. It's super fun. I can't imagine someone reading the Dinosaur Lake series and not just absolutely loving Henry and Anne. I can't imagine it. They are fantastic people, and they need to adopt me. They need to be my grandparents, absolutely. But it's like the doctor comes finally, and she looks Anne over. And the doctor says, Anne's cancer is going away. She just has the flu. What? You make us wait till the next book to see what happens. And without any treatment for months, after Anne is re-diagnosed with cancer, it just starts to go away on its own, and she was sick because she had the flu. Mayor Griffith, I think your books are great. The Dinosaur Lake series is one of my favorite book series of all time, and probably my favorite dinosaur book series of all time. But honestly, that was a really bad fucking move. That was a terrible, terrible move. It just was. I'm sorry, but you built the cancer up so much, and you made us worry about Anne, and like, as the reader, you're happy she's okay. But it's just so anticlimactic. It's almost like she beat it between the books and we didn't get to see what happened, is almost what it feels like. It was a bad decision. It was. And our author is also a bit older, because you remember in other books, like in the reviews of the other books, I say things like, oh, lots of the younger characters use the vocabulary of older people because the book's written by an older person, but that's, not much of a thing. But then there's a character who's a billionaire who's funding a virus to destroy the dinosaurs, which, spoiler alert, eventually, quote-unquote, works. And Justin is one of the people making it. This billionaire is... the book describes him as an internet billionaire, and our characters in the book are like, oh yes, he made his billions by investing in the internet, and he got rich on the internet when that became a thing, and so now he's wealthy. And they don't tell us how he got rich on the internet, really. It's explained in like a very vague way that doesn't give any details. They don't tell us what he did on the internet. Did he make a website that he sold? Did he, was he an early investor in Amazon or something? The very company that publishes these books? It kind of just felt like, oh, the older author wants to have, internet-related stuff, but doesn't understand it, so they're just not going to give us any details. And that just felt, it was pretty cringy. I'm trying to think of something, that sounds more professional to say, but I can't. It was just cringy. It was really cringy. I'm so sorry. The author of this book, I have spoken to her before. She is very nice. She is such a sweetheart. And I love the series so much, so I feel bad, dissing it like this, but I can't just say, I can't just turn on this camera and be like, oh, every one of these books is great, bye bye now. I have to give the good and the bad. I'm just trying to be ethical about this. I'm sorry, Mayor Griffith, I love you. But yeah, this book just, it's in my opinion, it's the worst one. It does have this smart dinosaur that wants to make peace with the humans. That's pretty cool. I thought that was pretty dope. And lots of the dinosaur action is just super cool. a lot of really cool dinosaur action, which is what a lot of people are going into it for anyways, so I feel like you can love it just for that, because it's got some dope dino action. But it honestly just feels like it's out of... I've read the first 5. I haven't read the newest one, which is 6, which is pretty recent at the time of recording this. I haven't gotten around to it. But I have read through 5, and this one is easily my least favorite. Easily. 3 was my favorite. This one's my least favorite. I like the concept of the more intelligent dinosaur that wants to help people. There are things about it I like. I like that the dinosaur wars are finally happening and we're seeing this all-out battle between man and monster and all this stuff. But I just don't feel like it was done very well. I felt like, you know, you kill off Laura, rush Justin into a new relationship. The parents don't seem to really even mourn her that much. And just all this other stuff together is still... It's not a bad book, guys. It's good. But it's the worst out of the 5. I'm sorry. It just is. But that's it for Dinosaur Lake 4, Dinosaur Wars by Catherine Meyer Griffith. I'm sorry. I don't know which one is which. But next time I think we're just going to go ahead and do Dinosaur Lake 5 Survivors. Get it out of the way, you know. But until then, I'll see you all. Be sure to check out my stuff on Kindle. My author page is in my link tree in the description below. All Dinosaurs Go to Hell is coming out soon. Might even be out by the time this video goes up. That's how soon it's coming out. So that's it. Thank you all once again, and I'll see you all next time.